Archaeologists have uncovered a discovery so astounding that it would have been hard to believe if it hadn't been right in front of their eyes. Deep beneath the earth, hidden from view for thousands of years, lies evidence of a long-forgotten civilization that challenges everything we thought we knew about human history. What did they find that nobody would have believed? Let's delve deeper into the incredible discovery that left archaeologists stunned. Archaeologists were taken aback when they discovered an antique pink statue bearing the Ka symbol, which is supposed to have represented some facet of the soul or spirit in ancient times. One of the rarest archaeological discoveries ever made, the significance of this find has become clear. The statue of Ramses II, which stands at about 3.5 feet tall, was discovered to feature the hieroglyph for Ka on its base. Researchers have called it one of the most remarkable findings in the Giza region in years due to this and the fact that it is constructed completely of pink granite. The statue was discovered on the property of a man who had previously been detained for engaging in illegal excavations, and its discovery was announced by Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities. Approximately 15 kilometers from Giza, the land is currently being dug in the hopes of discovering additional artifacts. Mustafa Waziri, Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities, stated that the unique statue was intended to provide a resting place for the Ka, life force or spirit of the person after death. Until now, the only known statue of Ramses II bearing the Ka emblem was a wooden one. The find is one of the rarest archaeological discoveries, he said, according to the Xinhua news agency in China. This is the first known Ka statue carved from granite. The only other Ka statue known to exist was commissioned by a ruler of the 13th dynasty of ancient Egypt and is made of wood. Ramses II was pharaoh of Egypt from 1279 to 1213 BCE during the 19th dynasty. He is widely considered the new kingdom's undisputed greatest pharaoh. The generations that followed him revered his leadership so much that they called him the great ancestor for setting Egypt on the path to great wealth and regional dominance. After losing control of Canaan in the Near East, Ramses II launched numerous successful military excursions into other territories in and around ancient Egypt, reasserting Egyptian dominance over them all. The ancient priest and historian Manetho estimated that Ramses II's reign lasted 66 years. He outdid all preceding pharaohs in terms of both offspring and monument construction, as reported by National Geographic. He is known as Ramses the Great due to his lengthy and prosperous rule. His death at age 90 and burial in the Valley of the Kings is widely accepted by historians. Ramses is known as Elka in the statue. That this is a symbol of strength, vitality, and spirit was a statement made by the ministry. A tribute to the late king, Nakht Mari Mot, which means strong bull, is carved into the statue's back pillar. The statue has a width of 1.8 feet and a height of 1.4 feet. A wig, a crown, and the Ka symbol adorn this portrait of Ramses II. The statue and the block have been donated to a museum for conservation and restoration. Inscriptions of the god Ta were also discovered on pink granite and limestone by the archaeologists. Ta was the deity of architects and craftsmen, while his wife, Sekhmet, was the goddess of war. The ministry suggests that Ramses-related artifacts were housed in the Temple of Ta. A naturally mummified skeleton of a 6-inch tall individual with a pointed head was discovered in the Atacama Desert of Chile in 2003. Many speculated that the extraterrestrial skeleton was human because of its small stature and the bone density of a 6-year-old, but scientists have now been able to sequence and examine its DNA. The female mummy, known as Ata, has been proven to be human, with roots in both indigenous Chileans and Europe. 7 separate mutations and growth-related genes were discovered, although it is unclear which one or ones caused her skeletal deformity. The wreck of a Greek ship that went down in the waters off the coast of the island of Antikythera approximately 2,000 years ago was not found on the ocean floor until the year 1900. When archaeologists were sorting through the relics that had been recovered from the shipwreck, they came across an object that baffled them. It was made out of wood and contained numerous layers of brass gears that fit together in such a way that it appeared to be a machine. After another half-century had passed, a scientific historian made the discovery that it was possible to determine the locations of planets and stars in the sky by using the date. Since then, scholars have unearthed Greek language on the item that revealed it could also predict eclipses, moon phases, and a countdown to sporting events, including the Olympics. This information was located on the artifact. The archaeologists themselves are the source of some of the most peculiar objects that are discovered during excavations. Peter der Menwelian, an Egyptology professor at Harvard and the curator of the Harvard Semitic Museum, recounted in an email that one of his Harvard predecessors, Dowse Dunham, attempted to trick his own boss, the famed Egyptologist George Reisner, who conducted many of the most successful excavations of the pyramids. Der Menwelian is an expert in the field of Egyptology. In 1914, Dunham decided to test whether or not Reisner would be puzzled by the presence of a bronze Roman coin that he had recently purchased from an antique shop in Cairo. He threw the coin into a burial chamber that was going to be excavated. It was a waste of time since as soon as the items in the room were organized, Reisner realized that his people had been the one to plant the coin. It's interesting to note that Menwelian reports that one of Reisner's meter sticks was discovered in the beginning of 2018 in a tomb in Middle Egypt. This discovery occurred 103 years after he initially worked in the region. When archaeologists excavating a site in Sweden dating back to the 5th century discovered a human skeleton lying on the floor of a home, they were perplexed as to why no one had bothered to bury it. Then they came across a further one. Still one more. All of the victims displayed signs of having been murdered with weapons such as swords, axes, and clubs before being left alone until the walls of their homes crashed in on them. It dawned on us that this was actually a massacre, Clara Alfstadter, a PhD student at Linnaeus University in Sweden and an archaeologist at the Bohusläns Museum, said in an interview with the New York Times. They have uncovered the skeletal remains of 26 people so far, along with coins, jewelry, and a fish that was only partially consumed, which suggests that the attack was a surprise. But they have not found any clue of who the attackers were or what they were angry about. Waldo Wilcox, a rancher in Utah, and his entire family remained silent about the old pit homes, prehistoric rock lines, drawings, and stone tools that were scattered across their 4,000-acre property known as Range Creek. Waldo's father had done the same thing before him. The artifacts had been left behind by a mysterious tribe known as the Fremont Indians, who had lived in the area 1,000 years ago, and they had remained mainly untouched thanks to the Wilcox family's gates and the road closed signs that had been erected to discourage hunters. After coming to the conclusion that he was no longer able to effectively run the ranch, Waldo opted to sell the land to the Bureau of Land Management. Since then, the Utah Museum of Natural History has been tasked with managing the land. The lost medieval bridge was discovered thanks to the efforts of the Ancrum and District Heritage Society, a local volunteer archaeology group funded by the Historic Environmental Scotland over the past 2 years. The ADHS collaborated with Dendrochronicle and Wessex Archaeology on the investigation. The historical investigation, field survey, drone photography, dendrochronology, underwater archaeology, and radiocarbon dating are only some of the methods used in the Ancrum Old Bridge project, which is led by the local community. The bridge timbers were radiocarbon dated, and the results verified a mid-1300s age, making these the earliest scientifically dated remains of a bridge ever discovered in their original place over one of Scotland's rivers. The bridge, which was constructed between Scotland and England during the reigns of David II and Edward III, is significant historically and strategically for both countries. From Edinburgh to Jedburgh and the border, the bridge carried the Via Regia, or the King's Way. James V would have used this crossing in 1526, Mary, Queen of Scots, would have done so in 1566 on her journey back from the borders, and the Marquis of Montrose would have done so in 1645 on his route to fight at Philiphaugh. Wessex Archaeology's underwater archaeologists surveyed and evaluated the artifacts. Once the samples were collected, they were transported to the Scottish University's Environment Research Centre in East Kilbride for wiggle match radiocarbon dating, with results indicating a time frame somewhere in the middle of the 1300s. During times of high water, the Ancrum Bridge was possibly the only crossing of the Teviot between Holwick and Berwick in medieval times, making it one of the most important buildings in medieval Scotland. The timber structure uncovered by ADHS in the River Teviot near Ancrum is a rare survival of part of an early bridge in a hugely strategic historical location, as Coralie Mills put it. In a location where few medieval houses survived the ravages of war, the oak timbers are in unusually good shape and provide particularly important local material for tree ring study. Dr. Bob McIntosh of Wessex Archaeology Coastal and Marine stated this site was challenging to survey and specific river conditions were needed to complete it safely. ADHS's consistent site monitoring and high-quality photography and surveying of the area before we became involved made our jobs much simpler. The findings are really promising. The branders, a wooden frame erected on the riverbed upon which the courses of stone were placed, and the remarkably early date suggests that the foundations were created using branders. Branders have never been discovered in Scotland before in an archaeological dig. Only 2 records of engineering work on still-standing bridges from the 19th and early 20th centuries provide any more information about them. That's all for the video today. We'll be back with more soon, so please don't forget to give this one a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel.